When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Buick Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Buick.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only, highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends May 31st, 2026. Not available with other offers.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Hello and welcome to episode 498 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking from indie films to studio films to high-end TV and documentaries and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to royally fuck it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I am Tobias Fees. I'm an emerging writer, director and a producer, and I have the honor of introducing this week's brilliant conversation because Charles is away shooting in Bulgaria once again, and Dom is, well, I'm not entirely sure what Dom is doing right now. I like to imagine him sitting somewhere on a sunny street in London, enjoying a truly excellent piece of cake with someone, maybe with a dear listener. Maybe not. Anyways, in this episode, Charles and Dom sit down with writer, director and producer Lincoln Fenner and lead actor Tim Cullingworth-Hudson to talk all about their time travel feature, Time Rewind, an ambitious indie film shot on a very limited budget that went on to not only win a lot of awards at festivals around the world, but also achieve international distribution on Apple TV. Time Rewind follows a man who wakes up with amnesia, suspected of murdering his teenage daughter. As he struggles to piece together the truth, he discovers he must travel back to 1989 to prevent a tragic bullying incident that is destined to cost her life. Lincoln and Tim discuss how they first connected through a casting call that drew thousands of submissions and how that initial meeting sparked a creative collaboration built on trust, passion, and a shared commitment to the project. They chat about the long journey of developing the film over nearly a decade, the unique challenges of writing a time travel story with clear rules and emotional stakes, and the constant balancing act between creative ambition and practical limitations. From crowdfunding and adapting to COVID-era restrictions to shooting an entire feature in just a handful of days, their conversation offers a candid look at the problem-solving mindset required to bring an indie film to life. They also explore the actor-director relationship, the importance of preparation and flexibility on set, and why so many of the biggest obstacles filmmakers face are often the ones they impose on themselves. It's a conversation full of practical insight, hard-earned lessons, and a reminder that passion, collaboration, and perseverance are often the most powerful tools any filmmaker has. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's conversation with your hosts, Giles Elderson and Dom Lenoir, joined by guests Lincoln Fenner and Tim Cullingworth-Hudson.
Hello, boys. Nice to meet you. Nice to say hello.
Yeah, to meet you. Totally.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and chatting to us about your film. Well done, man. It's really exciting. Time Rewind's done well. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I mean, I've been following your podcast since I think you'd just done The Dare. I think when I found it, you'd just done The Dare and you were promoting The Dare. Would have been 2019, 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
Listening pretty solidly since. So, yeah, it's pretty cool to be chatting with you. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. It was my first movie and we got it made, and I wanted to tell the world about the mistakes and the successes of it and hopefully inspire others to make their films too. You know, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's just us chatting. So that's exactly what this will be, just us chatting about how you did it, how you made it, filmmaking things you learnt along the way to inspire others.
So let's go into it. Like, how did you two meet? That's my primary question. Like, before we get into how the story sort of began.
It wasn't Tinder. Just to put that out there straight away.
That's a shame. Was it Grindr?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
that's the one. All right, good. Go on. So how did you meet? Was it a casting call? You've left it. There was a gap there. I need to
fill that gap in.
Maybe
we could double the gap.
In the silence, but he didn't come to my rescue.
So I can answer that question. So I was very lucky to meet Tim through the casting of Time Rewind. Really, we hadn't known each other before that.
Or Tim Rewind.
Yeah, Tim Rewind. Yeah.
You get used to these puns.
I am actually used to them because I've been listening to the podcast.
Yep, that's the podcast.
Yeah, so like I put out a casting call for it. Being London, I got 4,000 to 5,000 responses, which was pretty amazing and slightly overwhelming as well.
Wow, 4,000 to 5,000 responses on the casting breakdown you put out. Yeah. And at this point, just to be clear, was this an unpaid film? Was it? How did you
present it?
Yeah, no, it was a paid gig.
Okay, cool.
The actors knew that it was going to be a paid gig. It wasn't obviously, they could tell it wasn't with the studio kind of thing, obviously, but it was definitely paid, and it got a lot of interest. And Tim was one of those guys that stood out to me really quickly because, well, he went out of the way, and this is a great thing I would say for any actors going for a role. He didn't just reply to the job. He went out of the way to email me specifically, sent me a headshot, talked about his understanding of the film, his engagement with the narrative, and it was an instant kind of click for me. Yeah, he went, right up the top of the list because I thought, this guy gets it, and I can tell he's willing to go the miles. So with this being a low budget, I knew I needed actors that were going to go the miles, and so yeah, very, very, very glad that I chose Tim as the leading role. And and Tim delivered completely on that. I mean, whilst we're talking about it, I remember so clearly. So we shot it primarily in Hampstead, almost exclusively in Hampstead, London.
Good spot.
And I remember, Tim and I'd be down there, just be us shooting late at night, it'd be after midnight, and there'd be foxes coming around. It was so kind of
I love the foxes, yeah.
Yeah, it was so quiet and dead, the world had gone to sleep. And there we were doing a scene, and Tim's running down the street, coming towards the camera, had the lights all set up, and he's doing another shot. And, I don't get weary very easily. I tire most people out, but I always remember Tim going, "No, let's do it again. I can get you a better take. And I thought in that moment, and lots of other moments too, but particularly in that moment, I thought I knew I'd chosen a great actor because of his approach and his work ethic. And, when you make a film, often it's you carrying it, and you're the one who, everyone wants to make it, but no one wants to make it as much as you. And you've got to carry a lot of that and get people moving. But I felt Tim carried a lot of that with me. And even in the edit, he helped with opinions on different stuff, which was super helpful. So, great praise to Tim Cullingworth-Hudson. Yep.
That's amazing. And I mean, interestingly, I know linking you to the Oscar contender of the year, but I just saw something like about 10 minutes ago from Marty Supreme, and it was the audition tape of the actress playing against Timothée Chalamet, and she just does it in a phone box, and it's a scene in a phone box. And they, he was talking about why he selected her as an actor. And it's like, okay, she's done it. She's gone the extra mile. She's put in this level of thing that just suddenly makes, this person really wants to do the film. And I'm not going to have to what you just said there, dragging them on, kicking and screaming. They're actually someone that's going to help and make your life easier as a director. And that's really, really important to have that.
Totally. Yeah.
What was your sort of side of that, Tim, in terms of what made you leap in with that enthusiasm?
I'm a big believer that anything you do, you can do from the heart, right? So I just wear my heart on my sleeve in most aspects of life. I think when it comes to film, it's no different to anything else. If you want to do something, commit yourself, put your heart into it. Doesn't matter whether you're writing, whether you're acting, whether you're directing. I think pieces that really connect, whether it's from the performance aspect or the creative aspect beyond that, I think everything transcends with an audience. Just more relatably if it comes from the heart. So I sort of went into the project with my eyes open. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it everything, because ultimately I want people to watch whatever this ends up being, you know, whatever the thing ends up being. And I want them to be able to relate, to connect. If nothing else, let's make sure they relate. Let's make sure they connect. And I mean, the script was great. Full praise to Lincoln on that. I mean, I was kind of engrossed from the script initially, and I thought there's great potential with this. Everyone loves the concept of time travel, right? That kind of traditional sci-fi concept. So I thought we've got an opportunity to run with something. And Lincoln made it easy as well. You know, as you can probably tell, he's a great guy, lovely chap, easy to bounce off. And, it's his baby. I was just lucky enough to be part of it, but what I wanted to make sure was that I did what he had already brought to the table justice, and that was my main concern. I want to put all my cards on the table and walk away from this when all is done and say I gave it everything. And that was where my, where my kind of book kind of ended with it, really.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important that, the cast that you choose, especially on an indie film, have to buy into it. They have to put everything into it, because it's so hard as it is to make an indie film, especially a micro-budget indie film. If your actors aren't on board from the get-go, if they aren't going, right, this is the be-all and end-all for me, I'm going to do everything, then it can become really tricky. So that's great. And in terms of your casting then, is that something that you do quite a lot in terms of put your own personal touch onto the casting tapes you send across? I
look at what I'm given, the material, right? I digest it, interpret it however I'm going to, and I just make sure I perform. At the end of the day, I make sure whatever I give it my best. So if this is how the character should be, if this is how they should come across, well, then I'll be damn sure that I leave the best possible tape that I can to convey that, and that the performance is natural. That, that's the other thing, isn't it? I mean, actually, a very funny story with Dom, actually, in this regard. I don't know if Giles Dom's told you about how we met, but I met Dom on the set of Winter Ridge.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I played a kind of small cameo role in that. And I mean, this kind of connects really in the story. It's very funny. I mean, that was my first really kind of professional role, right, back in 2018. And I turned up and I kind of learned a lesson on that day, but for the right reasons. And Don was lovely about it. I mean, I had a very small role, but I did what I think a lot of first-time actors do. I gave it everything, but everything was too much. And I remember there's a scene where the lead, Matt Hookings, was coming into a police station, and I was a suspected drink driver, having been arrested and taken in. And I go in and I'm meant to kind of have this confrontation with Matt, which in the script was quite light. But in my interpretation, Matt had gone across the room and Dom came up to me and said, "It was great, but less." And it's kind of, it's a lesson you have to learn along the way, isn't it? I mean, it's better to give more and be able to dilute than it is to, I never want to be accused of not giving enough. But what's happened is, from that lesson there, and I was grateful to Dom for that, because he was brilliant. And, with something simple, I gave what it was needed and no more. But you kind of learn from that, don't you? That sometimes less is more. But also you need to know and deliver your intent behind it. So I want people to know that I'm willing to give everything, but also you can outstay your welcome with enthusiasm and effort as well. It's that fine line in between, where you're willing to give everything, but when it's good to kind of sit back, listen. And
that's it. And I think it sort of comes down to like whether you've done the internal homework, and if you have, then you should be able to sort of tweak it in either direction.
Yeah.
If you haven't, then especially getting more out of a performance is very hard. If you're just not feeling the scene, or you haven't thought about it, and then suddenly there's a lot of pressure and you're not quite getting to where you need to be. So I think that's it. I think it's making sure you've done your prep beforehand, and then being flexible and going in the direction that the film sort of requires.
Yeah. Let's jump back a little, Lincoln, in terms of you and your journey here and making time rewind and getting to this stage now, because this isn't your first rodeo. You made a couple of documentaries before this, if I'm correct. But it'd be really nice to talk about your sort of journey here, why you wanted to make feature films, what was the passion behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it's how far we go back. But if we're talking about making films at all, I remember a friend of mine told me, he said, "Look, I've just done this short course on script writing. You should do it, man. It's amazing, And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I like creative things. I hadn't really done anything with film." I turned up to that, and it was amazing, and I was very hooked. And one of the things the lecturer said very early was, if you want to make something, if you want to write something, and you want it made, you really need to direct as well, because no one's, to get it made or to get it made the way you want, you really need to direct. And I kind of thought, directing films, what's that? I kind of liked it as a kid.
That?
But that was kind of like when I was like, okay, so what does that look like? So that took me on a journey through, I always wanted to make narrative films, time rewind. But I think I got kind of led to do some things with like feature length documentaries, social justice films, and that was a bit of a journey. But ultimately, it was always to make a film like Time Rewind. And I love the time travel genre and what you can do with the narrative, the whole thing about consequences and rewinding, and that's always fascinated me. And we moved to Hampstead in London back in, it was about 2013, and we lived there for 7.5 years at that point. I'd lived there previously as well, and it's such a beautiful, timeless place. And I remember going downstairs at night, like to get some milk or a chocolate or whatever,
or something healthy. Yep.
Or something healthy. Yeah, let's just say it was something healthy.
Piles of cabbage.
And cabbage. That's right. I was going downstairs to get some cabbage, and I just remember the quiet timelessness of the streets and the cobbled streets and the buildings. And I thought, like sometimes there was no one else on the street at all. And I think, man, like a horse and carriage could come around here. And, I suppose my mind always thinks cinematically, and I thought it would just look totally in place. And because I'd always loved time travel films, I thought this would be a perfect place to set a time travel film because what I'm dealing with as a natural background won't change. Yeah, sure. I mean, Starbucks has popped up and McDonald's has popped up and different things, but ultimately as a place, it was a great backdrop. And so that was really the beginning of that. And then I think really the redemption story between the father and the daughter, that's the premise of the film, started to organically eke out. And that, it just rolled from there. I wrote 25 feature screenplay drafts for this. And I was very happy I spent a lot of time doing that because I really wanted to tweak that and get that to the place rather than shoot it quickly. So it was a long journey getting this from... It was really a 10-year journey from the writing to the shooting. The shooting happened really quickly. I mean, that was part of the indie magic of how you make an indie film. I can tell you about that. And then the editing took forever. So yeah.
Well, let's just go into that 25 drafts, because that's people think that when you hear that number, you're like, oh, that's quite a lot. But actually, over the number of years that you're talking about, time changes. Your experiences change, different notes from different people. Like how did it change from that initial draft? What kind of notes and developments and character changes were sort of changing and adapting and amending over that time?
Yeah, it's funny. Tim and I were just talking about this the other night. Look, I love Back to the Future, okay? Like, it's the greatest film ever. I'm sorry if it just is. And, I can't not say that when I first saw that film, I thought, oh my goodness, this is the perfect film in every way. And I still think it is. So when you love time travel, you can't help but eke into it. And a lot of writers have different ways of writing. My way of writing is to have a soundtrack playing. Now, I would write on the tube going to work, on the tube coming home. I'd go sit in a cafe in my lunch break and write. Like I would get hours in the day that you wouldn't otherwise have if you didn't, commit to doing something like this. And I'd always have on my headphones a soundtrack, and that soundtrack was Back to the Future. But that was for maybe like drafts 1 to 7. And that was a problem because what would happen is I remember showing this screenplay to people and they'd go, that's really good, mate, but it's Back to the Future. I'm like, no, but it's not Back to the Future because it's set in London and they don't go from the 1980s. They go back to the 1980s and blah, blah, blah. And the character's not Doc, it's this and that. And they go, yeah, but look at the beats of the story. It's the beats of the story are the same, So he's not jumping up on a stage with a guitar. He's now jumping up, different kind of story. And I really wrestled with that. And I thought, okay, I've got to get rid of that soundtrack because what it was doing, it was pulling lots of different kind of chords in my head that were emotionally pulling on me back to what I understood that story to be. And so I started working with A Beautiful Mind. So So I have to have a soundtrack when I write. And so the Ron Howard film, A Beautiful Mind, which is truly beautiful, that became the soundtrack. I've listened to that thing thousands and thousands of times, and that was, in some ways, temp tracks for it. But that gave a different nuance, a different feeling, and that allowed me to, okay, I'm moving away from what I would naturally just want to write in a time travel film to, okay, now I'm finding that, okay, the father, he has amnesia. The daughter is suspected. So he's suspected of the murder of his own daughter. What would that feel like? What would that feel like if you woke up on a bench, you didn't know who you were, you knew you had a daughter, and there was love in your heart for her, but you had no idea of how to find her. And maybe she wasn't actually dead, and maybe she wasn't somewhere else, but maybe she was actually trapped back in 1989, and you had a bunch of clues. And as those fragments through amnesia started to unravel, you had a way to find her. And so that then became its own, that then became the seed for a very, very, I suppose, organic, authentic, genuine story that was completely mine. It was nothing else. It was nothing like anything else I'd seen before. And so I guess drafts 7 to 25 were then so many different versions of how I then make everything organically work between the characters. And when you're working between multiple timelines, you can't cheat anything. You must have, for time travel to work, you must have rules that work within time travel. You can't go breaking things, and everything has to link up. What goes up must come down. It's incredibly, incredibly difficult to write a 90-page or 120-page time travel narrative that works. And I feel that this does. And so it takes a lot of drafts to make it all sing. So that's a long answer to the journey that got me there.
Well, it's so interesting you say that. I don't think it's ever an issue to be inspired by other films or films we love, right? Because they're good for a reason. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And like you said, eventually you found your own voice and you found your own way through that. During that time, and obviously because we can go through the ups and downs and the disappointment of going, oh, it's not working, or someone else reads it and goes, they have a question, or it's too much like this film. How did you get over those bits? How do you deal with that disappointment or the upscale of that when someone says it's good, and your process of actually writing? Do you just sit down and hammer it out? Are you doing a scriptment, treatment? What's your process?
Definitely not a scriptment or treatment. It was always pure script. It was always like full format script. Sometimes you got to not listen to voices. It's really hard to know which voices to listen to and which not. And, I'd meet a lot of great people in the industry, people who'd become friends. And some of the time they would speak of their frustrations to you. So they might be partway through a feature and they're getting frustration because they're getting knocked back, being told, hey, hold on, the first 10 pages aren't engaging enough. The first, you don't have a beat on page 25 or whatever that they believe that has to happen. And you would and you'd send them a draft and they'd go, oh, look, mate, this doesn't work because you're not doing this, and you got to go back to film school, mate. You've got to, you'd be kind of demolished by it. You'd go, oh, well, okay, maybe I can't write. Or maybe I'm hopeless, maybe I'm useless, maybe I'm never going to do this, maybe this isn't cut out for me. And then you pick yourself up and you go, no, I do have something here. I know I can do this. And sometimes you got to ignore some of that advice. And it's the knowing of which advice to ignore and which advice to embrace that's discernment. That's the wisdom we're all trying to find. It's really hard, but I got some really good advice from a producer. So I tried to get a producer on this film, and I basically produced it as well out of necessity. But one guy, he kind of liked it, but he said, look, mate, I can't do it, but I've got some advice for you. Now take it or leave it. He said, the time travel portal. Now we are up to like draft 21 maybe by this stage. It's getting pretty close. And he said, the time travel portal, it's great, but why has no one found it yet? Why has no one in however many years just wandered into wherever it is? I won't tell you where it is because viewers need to see the film, and just gone through the time travel portal and created all this chaos previously. And I thought, well, you've kind of got a point there. Now, I could have ignored him and go, oh, mate, you have no idea. And I'm just going to go, well, look, I've got a great script. But I thought, no, you are actually right. He said, there needs to be more law. LORE, more lore around why. And I was like, okay, so there has to be something that unlocks it. And in that moment, that's when I came up with the idea that Tim's daughter, played by Anna Fraser, who did an absolutely amazing job, by the way, has a necklace. And on that necklace, it's made from a gem. And that gem unlocks the time portal. And there's a whole history when we go back into the 1980s about Tim's best friend when he was 17 and what that stone did. And there's this whole time travel journal and there's so many plot points that I pulled out of that made its way into the film that wouldn't have been there. And I think it's so much stronger because I listened to that guy's advice. I could have gone, look, I'm too close to shooting, mate. Thank you, but I'm going to shoot. But he was right. And so some pieces of advice are great. And I would tell people, use your own judgment, use your gut.
I was having an interesting conversation with Giles the other day about law and how much you show and how much you don't show and, what you want to tell the audience versus not tell the audience. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Giles, or...
Yeah, I think it's really tricky to get right. I think it's really hard because in our heads, we work out the lore of our own films and the ins and outs of it. But we don't want to necessarily give all that information to the audience straight away or even at all. We want them to figure it out, maybe work it out themselves. All good films don't always explain the lore, necessarily the lore of Back to the Future. We understand it all, but doesn't really make sense if you work it out. It doesn't actually work. The science doesn't work. It makes sense.
Looked at the physics explanation.
Exactly, the physics explanation. And therefore, obviously, someone nowadays, if you presented that script, would go, well, that doesn't work. It's obviously the speed would be probably quicker. But even so, they'd go, yeah, but someone's going to question that online. You probably never get it made nowadays. It's so interesting. It's so hard to get the lore right in a movie and in that place. But it is so interesting, like you're saying there, Lincoln, about trying to find those balances when writing the script and what to take from people and not. So when that producer said to you, here's what you should do, but I'm not going to help you. Was it at that point that you said, I'm going to do this myself?
I already knew I was going to do it myself.
Oh, you just wanted some advice from that producer?
No.
I knew he was wrong.
I knew you weren't right for this.
Don't take that the wrong way.
No, we're messing.
Who's the producers?
I already knew in my heart the likelihood of getting someone on board for that level film to do what I needed was unlikely. So, no, I was really hopeful that he was going to come on board, but he didn't. In that moment, I kind of thought, yeah, well, okay, that kind of confirms what I thought, but at least I've put it out there. I've talked to multiple producers and, that kind of goes back to kind of a lot of the philosophy or thinking around indie filmmaking and what gets in the way and why you guys have such a great podcast and why people need to hear a podcast like yours, because most people are they're stuck behind something that they believe to be true. Now, maybe it's, I don't have a good enough camera, or I can't afford a cinematographer, or I can't get that producer, or I can't get this studio that I think I need, or I need however many millions of dollars or pounds to make this film. So they've got something in their head, and almost none of that is true. In terms of what I did with this film, none of that is true. And if I was waiting for any one of those things or all of those things, I'd be sitting here now, not talking to you guys, but thinking about, I kind of had that idea, but I never made it. So I think you've got to get out of your own way, and you've got to pick up the bits that are important, but you've also got to work out how to get around what the collective is telling you have to do.
LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't predict the future, but it can help you feel confident about future hires. Because Hiring Pro combines real-time insights and candidate data from the LinkedIn network with the criteria you've set for your role to deliver you a list of top-fit candidates. Businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
At Uber, every single driver is required to pass a thorough background check before they can start driving. That means any prospective driver goes through a multi-step screening process, checking for any impaired driving or criminal offenses. But the checks don't stop there. Every year, every Uber driver is background checked again, so the person picking you up today meets the same standards as the day they started.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Annual driver screenings from Uber. One more way Uber is putting safety at every turn. Learn more at uber.com/safety.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney Plus.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are Gary the Snake. And your last name? The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working it.
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney Plus, rated PG.
This episode is brought to you by Beneful. Dogs of the world, lend me your ears, snoots, and little toe beans. We've been sitting and staying for boring food for too long. It's time to demand high-quality ingredients, fresh from the pantry. Together with Beneful freshly prepared meals, we can start a mealtime revolution. Can I get a woof woof? Kick boring in the bowl with Beneful freshly prepared meals. Visit Purina.com/Beneful to shop now.
I completely agree. I think 9 times out of 10, the obstacles we put in front of ourselves. That's the truth. And I think there's always a way. It's kind of like you look back at films made in particular in the early 90s, when sort of CGI was just sort of really starting to come in. I think we had some real movie magic in those days where creativity, 80s and early 90s, where the creativity was just off the scale.
Really was.
And the magic moments in the big kind of films were always creativity. Actually, the CGI was peppered in, but you look at the really great, big, breathtaking scenes from the 80s and 90s, you think, wow, that was amazing. It really worked for whatever reason. But often it was a trick of the light, a particular shot, the way they did something that they'd done.
Like E.T. with the moon.
Oh, exactly. And how many shots did that take? It's that kind of approach. These days, I think a lot of material is on, everything's on timescales, right? There's a lot of content pushed out. We've got dozens of VOD platforms. So, content is getting pumped out. But what I think that often means as well, and this is with no disregard to some of the amazing stuff that is out there, but sometimes maybe you get a sense that writing is rushed, and sometimes you get an impression that maybe more money goes at things, but does that harbour an environment where it kind of invokes less of those magical moments, where it comes from pure creativity? And that goes back to what Lincoln and you guys were saying about the obstacles that we put in front of ourselves. There's never an obstacle that we can't overcome with creativity. And that's the one thing I would say. It's just that the environment that we find ourselves in now in, 21st century film as it stands is just one where creativity perhaps isn't quite as, not quite as at the front of things as what it might have been 10 to 20 years ago. So it's a really interesting environment, but, Lincoln did a great job of obviously overcoming those voices in his head, and thank goodness, it means that we've got a film, with plenty of spirit and plenty of creative heart.
So true.
And how much do you like to sort of go into the rehearsal process in terms of you guys in working together, like after that first conversation, the script, and then, do you like to improvise a lot? Do you really try and stick to the script fairly regularly? Because you haven't got much time to shoot. You're sort of, on very limited money, obviously, doing independent film.
About that, I kind of changed the rules that govern that by the way I approach that. So, again, on paper, I had not much money and I had not much time. So because I had not much money, I had not much time, but that's not true. And the reason I would not have much time is if I stuck to the rules of the way you need to shoot. Now, the way you need to shoot, everyone will tell you need to shoot back to back. All right. You have to shoot for, if you're going to shoot for 2 weeks, you shoot for 2 weeks, and you shoot for 3 weeks, months, you shoot it back to back. Well, I could have been on your podcast. Remember one guy got on to a podcast, I'm pretty sure it was yours, and I try and glean. Oh, of course.
It's not going to be anyone else's.
Let's give you guys credit. And he said, so I try and glean the useful bits and just, kind of create a collective in my own mind of that was a nugget of gold, right? And what he said was, I don't pay actors for time. I pay them in lump sum.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, that's really interesting.
Buyout.
He said, sorry?
A buyout.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's the term for what I did, but I said, so I knew I was going to be under a lot of pressure if I was paying them, and I had a character, I needed them for 5 days, but it took 6. And I needed a character for 9, and that took 12. Now, suddenly my budget's gone from 100% to 120%, and I'm shot, right? So what I did is all the actors, Tim included, I said, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Tim, and it's just my general approach. I said, look, I've got a limited budget. I want to give you this amount. And I think as a lump sum, this is fair based on how many days I think we're going to shoot. Now, we may shoot for less and we may shoot for more, but this is honestly fairly how many days I think we're going to need. Now, I need someone who's going to come on board with that. And I did that with everyone. And everyone agreed. And I think in the end, because you wanted to shoot so many takes, Tim, I don't know if it did help you, but most actors actually won out.
Are you a many take guy, Tim? Is that your thing? You're like, I know I did another one.
Got myself on the foot.
Yeah, got you.
No. So I think most actors actually won out on that because I thought, I want to do the right thing by them. If it's going to take, I may shoot their scenes in 2 days, but I'm going to make sure that I paid them for 3 anyhow. So some actors actually scored more than what they would have. No one was unhappy with it.
He's like, no, Tim, rewind again.
It took the pressure off me. So now time, there's the pun again, wasn't an issue. So, and the other thing is I shot it like short films. I mean, I as a writer-director, I had the narrative for I was shooting a feature, but I didn't have to be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on. I would shoot a Saturday, I would shoot a Wednesday night, I would shoot a Saturday, Sunday the next weekend. So we shot it over, I don't know, how many weeks was it? It might have been 4 or 5 weeks, but we actually only shot on 13 calendar days.
Wow. Okay.
And we only shot 9 film days. So if you like take a half a day and you take a full day, if you add all the half days and full days up, if you talk in film shoot day language, I shot this film in 9 days. Well, Tim and I shot this film in 9 days,
right? Which
is a really short period of time. Now you go, well, okay, how can you do that? I also shot 2,500 shots in 60 locations.
Wow.
Now, so the maths there again doesn't work, but this is why the maths don't work. Because you're already thinking.
Give your first AD a heart attack.
Yeah, if it had one.
Yeah, exactly.
There's your first problem. I didn't have one of them, and that helped me. And I also
probably for the best.
Sorry,
probably for the best because they'd just said no.
Which is why you like no, we'll do it ourselves. Totally.
Exactly. Now this one's a really, really big call. I mean, I wore a lot of hats, but I also was a cinematographer.
Yeah,
so that's a massive call on a feature.
Huge.
But the kind of shots that I needed and the kind of way I needed to shoot it across, if I was going to get 2,500 shots in 60 locations in 9 days, I had to shoot fast. And shooting those documentaries helped me a lot. So I took a cinematographer with me around America and around the world both times when I shot those feature documentaries. But I'd often grab the camera and go out at night when they were knackered and shoot more stuff. In fact, the first night we got anywhere, I would go out and shoot by myself more and more stuff. So I knew I had it in the can. No matter what happened, I had it. So I knew I was an okay shooter, and I'd shot some shorts, and I particularly shot a short as an experiment where I made myself the cinematographer. So there's zero risk. It was like a low budget short.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really to test whether I could direct and be cinematographer. And I was pleased enough with it that I thought, okay, I can get us there like 80% and the rest with editing. And because I knew I was going to edit too, and the style I was going to be able to edit with, I knew I would get a better result than if I got a cinematographer, one, which I couldn't afford in the first place, and two, was going to take 2 hours to do every setup. No, I could not wait that. So I waited. So, sorry, I didn't wait at all. I would spend at max, and Tim, I'd see if you can attest this, I would say at maximum on any shot, I would spend 20 minutes in the setup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very quick. And I've been on, sort of, you tend to find it's like these things incrementally grow. The more money sets generally have, the more time that's spent on preparing things.
Setting up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Got to get people out of the way.
Yeah. There's too many people.
Shoot this way now, right? You lot need to move all your chairs and your video village.
Exactly. That's in the shot.
Exactly. It's going to
take
Mike
a while. Out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, Tim had no, that whole sitting around on set, getting to think about my lines and what am I going to do and what's my motive. Tim had no time to do any of that, because we're just always rolling camera. So in those 2 hours, I'd spend 20 minutes lighting it. And I would say I could get it to 80% good of what I thought. And And if it only ever got to 80%, I would prefer an 80% beautifully lit shot in 20 minutes than 100% beautifully lit shot that people aren't really going to be paying attention to because they're watching the actors and they're in the story. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to get Tim and all the other actors on set. I wanted to give them, I didn't want to give them 2 takes. I wanted to give them 9 takes or, let's go shoot some more scenes. So.
Did you get 9 takes?
Did you do some 9 takers?
Yeah, as an average. Like, I mean, what was the average? Like, just a.
Oh, it's a good question, Tim. What would you say? What was the average length of takes?
Do you know what? I think the dialogues scenes, probably not that many. It was more where we had complicated, choreographed kind of action scenes like the big chase. That's probably where we had more takes. That's where I recall the most number of takes being, taken. But yeah, no, in respect to the dialogues, I think we flew through the dialogues relatively quickly. I'd probably say, I know it's a bit of a magic number really, but I reckon we did maybe max 3 takes, on dialogues.
Yeah, that's about right.
Feels about right for how many days you shot.
For all levels of filmmaking, to be honest, yes. Yeah.
But then there's also another thing to that. So I made sure I shot very, very few dialogue shots externally because then I'd have to get the streets locked off. I'd need to have quiet. But I could shoot in beautiful places. But what I did is I either used voiceover or I used flashbacks, and then I put the dialogue in locked off places that I could then use. So I got a great professional sound recordist. I mean, everyone's professional, but a top-notch sound recordist, because that's where you need to put your money, right? The people will not forgive sound. I know you guys know it. And so I wrote the script with this in mind whilst listening to your podcast. In between, I'm like, okay, so I can't be shooting out where I've got to create all this lock off. So I wrote the script with this in mind. So we did the police interrogation scene and a lot of the dialogue's in there whilst we cut away. And then, I do internals in the house in Hampstead Heath. I did the dialogue in safe places. So when we're doing lots of those takes, a lot of them are action, as you said, Tim, visuals. So yeah, I created a different kind of balance, I suppose, than what's the norm, but that was intentional too. And I think that then allowed you to be running around Hampstead crazy. And I think the reason you remember that chase scene so much is because I exhausted you because you're like getting away from this huge detective who's pacing down on you and you're like, oh, do I have to run it again?
Yeah. We're talking about shooting the movie. So go back slightly because some of our listeners will be going, well, hang on, where did you get the money? How did you choose a date? How did you do all that good stuff? Did you decide on a date, first of all? Did you say, right, I'm going to shoot in this obviously it's over like a month and a half, but did you go, right, this is when we're pretty much starting? Did you lock a date in?
I did. It's very interesting, the date that we chose. I don't know why in history we would have chosen, but we chose the date that was a week before COVID hit. So
March the 13th or something. Yeah. 2020.
So we had a location locked off that we were going to use, and of course all that went to pot.
Yep.
And then everything waited, and COVID kind of helped in a way because a lot of the bigger films couldn't get up and running, but we could get up and running in creative ways. I don't know if you remember, but you couldn't be inside, like to be inside with another person. Like this is before masks. Remember before, Boris was going, yes. We're not sure that masks are good. And the idea to be inside with another person was like, oh my goodness. So to shoot inside was impossible. So I moved scenes like from inside a kitchen to Hampstead Heath. And it actually was better because you had to use the creative juices to kind of like, well, how am I going to get around this? So yeah, we had to change everything, but the date was around then. I don't think it was as early as March. It was more like August. So we had to wait. So basically we shot it between COVID lockdowns. And it got really, really hard because I remember we shoot the scene in the record store, which we shot in Camden.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Boris Johnson had said in a week, no more than 3 people can be in a building or a shop at the same time. So at that point you weren't wearing masks. And so I was like, well, okay, that means I've got to do this now. And I think it ended up working out that we couldn't close the store. So if a customer walked in.
One of you had to walk out.
But yeah, because it was me and 2 actors. There was Anna Fraser and Harrison Watson, and there was the shop owner. I don't think he counted. I don't know anyhow. then, and so, yeah, we had to shoot it just praying that, okay, look, no one come into this door, and I had to get the shot. So everything was kind of like that. But you asked, sorry, a question about dates starting. Yeah. Sorry, there's something else you asked.
Yeah, it's just about dates, but also on that in terms of budget. So did you, because you knew how much you wanted to pay your actors. Great. You'd set that up. You knew you couldn't afford a DP, so you shoot it yourself. There's various other places you said, hey, I can do this myself. See if I can get locations for free, etc. We'll come to that in a minute. But in terms of your budget and what you had to spend, where did that money come from? You didn't do a crowdfunder as far as I know.
No, it was all crowdfunded.
Oh, it was crowdfunded. Great.
It was 100% crowdfunded. And that's another thing. So crowdfunding, whether it's Possible, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever it is, they have their different structures. And I remember I put out a number and we got half of it. So now on paper, that's failed, right? So that's a failed crowdfunder. But again, that's only if you listen to like the rules, right? It's not failed at all.
No, not at all.
Those people that have given to that or pledged to that, they don't care about Indiegogo's rules. They don't care that what the Kickstarter calls it failed or successful or the most successful crowdfunding campaign ever. They don't care. They're only giving because they believe in you. I mean, let's face it, 99% of people, they only fund because they know you and they believe in you. They believe in the film a bit, but they mainly believe in you. And I guess I'd done that. I'd created people that had kind of locked in with the journey for me. And so all you got to do is so I got half of it. I thought, okay, well, I just turned around to all those people and I said, well, we're still going to make the film. And because they believe in you, they believe that you could do it on whatever. They don't care. They don't care about the numbers. And you just ask for the money and they just send it straight to your company's bank account.
So you did a follow-up on everyone that invested, basically?
Yeah, it took about a day. They all gave. I think there's one person who dropped off, possibly because of personal circumstances, which is cool. And then there was another person who gave even more. So I think I actually got more in the end. But I'm sure there's so many people that have gone, oh, my crowdfunding failed. It didn't really. You just maybe the number was too high. So now I've got a number and I've got to do it for half that. So now admittedly I had 20% contingency built in. So obviously that goes out the window. You just get creative and you just look at, well, how can I scale things? What can I cut? I really wanted to do this. And that's the beauty of it to me, getting creative where you go, that moment where you're sitting there and you go, I've got a problem. I know I can fix this. I'm not going to not make this film. I didn't write 25 drafts of this for nothing. I am going to make this film. How can we do it? To me, that's exciting. That's not a problem. That's exciting. And then when you come up with that idea, often it's better because you were forced to be more creative than sitting in a cafe with your computer going, I'll just write something that I feel that, well, we'll just make that. No, the more creative you've got to get, the better your story becomes.
I love that. So important, Lincoln, what you're saying there about the creativity. Same for you then, Tim. Was that creativity on set evident between the two of you? You just kind of like, okay, let's see what I can play with here. Obviously, you've got your scenes written, but at the same time, you've got that creative, because it sounds like it's just the two of you and a sound person for a lot of the film as well, which must have been, wonderfully exciting to just go, great, let's go.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And I think it helped that it was my sort of my first lead role on a feature. It was Lincoln's sort of first big independent feature. And we kind of both had similar goals. So I think, kudos to Lincoln, really, because I think he, in his casting process, found someone that, was coming from such a place in life where the career aspirations and goals, as well as creatively aligned, our paths aligned. I wanted to get the most from what the project could give me, and I wanted to give in return as much as I could, and Lincoln wanted exactly the same. So two paths coming together where, everything you do is mutually advantageous. It's so creatively provocative because you have a certain amount of time and you have to make it work one way or another. So, you put your heads together, you give each other that kind of feed that inspiration that you need one way or another. And I think, we just found that we we creatively bounced really well, and that helps, doesn't it? It's not always the way I'm sure for a director. I've directed some stuff, and I've certainly found this. It's not always the way. You're going to find actors where you bounce off just like it's seamless, and other times it will be effortless. But, when you have those environments, you just get the best work. What
was the hardest bits for you both? I mean, like what maybe didn't go to plan? What bits in the character did you sort of maybe wrestle with a bit, Tim or Lincoln, from a sort of shooting perspective in your mind versus what ended up happening?
I can answer that pretty easily. I think, look, at the time, I do now, but at the time I didn't have a child. So I think the greatest challenge for me, right, was to embody truly what a parent would be going through in terms of putting myself in Sean Richards' shoes and going through that journey with him, as him. When you don't have a child, it's very difficult to truly embody those paternal instincts when you don't naturally have them, right? It's not organic for someone that's not a father. So I think what I actually did was to overcome that.
You had a child.
Yeah, you had a child. You there.
You'll be my vessel.
What day is it?
I think I kind of thought, how do I relate as closely as possible to this character? And for me, I thought, well, look, being a young man or young woman and trying to find your way in the world, especially in creative fields, it can be a really lonely place. Being a young adult in any field, for that matter, finding your place, finding where you have value, and trying to, you're being in a position where others can share your values and appreciate them. It can be a really lonely place. It's a tough old world we live in for young people trying to make their mark and find their place. And so for me, I think like many of us probably listening to this as well, you go through that in your early 20s in particular. And as you kind of ascend into your later 20s, it's all about trying to make your mark and find your own path. And I kind of transcended how I felt as a young adult into the character and made that work. And that was the biggest thing. How do I find myself in lonely moments? How does Sean Richards find himself in lonely moments? I can't wholly relate to his, paternal crisis, but I can relate to a very human one as a young adult. And I kind of married those two things together. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I studied the script, as I do with everything I ever do, meticulously until I genuinely get lost in it. And then, you stop worrying about the dialogue because that comes secondarily to the feeling and to the moment and what you're trying to convey. So that was really how I overcame it. But that was the greatest challenge as well.
That's amazing. It sounds like you two properly gelled as well on this, which is nice. And Lincoln, it sounds like you had a great actor in Tim.
Lincoln together very nicely.
Yeah, Lincoln together very nicely, Dom.
Lincoln, I see what you did there, yeah.
So Lincoln, from your side then, what are the things you've learned, certainly taking forward to the next film from this one?
Probably the logistics, like just
planning it.
Like, I mean, I did like creating different rooms in a place which were meant to be in different houses that were meant to be in different times, and having to set it all up with 80s posters on the wall, and then flip the camera around, and then in the other half of the room you're shooting something else and it's in someone's house, and you've got to set all that up in a day to be able to use that room. And in your mind, you've got to know all the pieces in the script and all the shots that you need to shoot and what it's going to look like in the edit and when you're going to cut from this to that. That's really hard. So you got to love it a lot. Like I say to people, like, and it's been said to me, that if you're going to make a film, make something you love. Make sure you really, really love it. Because if you just go, that's a pretty good idea for a script. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea for a film. That's not going to be nearly enough. And I'm sure Giles and Dom, you would know, that'll probably get you halfway at best. And then you'll go, you just don't have the drive to finish it.
You have to have the drive, yeah, you really do.
Because you need that. You need to love this film like it means something to you. And you're making it because you're trying to tell a story that means something to you that you think will mean something to someone else. And I'm glad we made this film because that, I think a lot of the actors got on board with that on that level because it did mean something. But yeah, what have I taken away from it?
Well, would you make another film on this level, Lincoln? I suppose is a good question because you have done it. You have made a feature film that's won 33 awards around the world, and you did do it on a very limited budget, and you had to slash that as it was and your timescale. Would you do it the same? What would you change if not?
Well, yeah, and look, and it's got on Apple TV in 64 countries,
There
and
you go.
Amazon and Google and Microsoft and all the places. I mean, it's done everything you could hope for any film to do, let alone an indie film. So I'm internally grateful for everyone for making that happen. I'm a little bit like, have you guys read Rebel Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez?
Of course.
Of course you have. He's got it by his bedside
I've
right now.
literally probably got it somewhere here now. Where is it?
He's reading it now.
Yeah. I'm the rebel without a crew.
I would say I have a similar mindset to him in that, like, what would I do with the money? I mean, like, I've learned how to shoot. I've learned how to shoot cheap. Like we were actually talking to, like, it's a hard one. Look, we've been talking to people about doing a Time Rewind the series. I think there's a great Netflix, Apple TV series where this splinters off into lots of different timelines, character journeys. I mean, we've got 9 characters there. Probably 3, 4, 5 of them are key characters that we dig into. We talked a lot about Tim's character, but there's a lot of characterization in this feature film around these characters. And I've written a pilot for it, and it's quite. I think it's pretty solid so far. I haven't done the 25 draft yet, but
but you will.
Got 24 to go.
I will. But I think there's a lot that we can do, and yeah, I mean, look at. You guys had the Duffer Brothers on the other day, which I've started to listen to. What an incredible thing they did with Stranger Things. Now, they had a lot of money with the first. I don't know the numbers, but just by watching it, I'm sure numbers. They had a lot of. They had a lot of money. They had a bit of money to start with, but they had a lot more as the seasons rolled on. I am sure. You look at what they start to do in season 2. And but season 1 has got the magic because it's what they don't show. Spielberg always, it's about what you don't show and about how you start with the close up and then how you pull back and how you, like Jaws, what is it like? You're halfway through the film before you see the shark, but it's the most terrifying thing. What's the scariest thing in Hollywood is a closed door? Not any CGI effect. So it's what they did with their creativity. So I guess on that level, yeah, I'd love to make more stuff, and even in this genre, even a series. And I think with on a higher budget, we could take it to much bigger levels. But I think keeping the same philosophies about being smart with stuff, that's only going to help relationships with studios because no one wants to waste money, right? Let's do things smart. So
no one wants to waste money, Lincoln. You're absolutely right. So it seems like you've learned a ton, but you'd also go, well, hang on, we did it right. It was hard work. We got through the trenches. We probably made mistakes along the way, but we did it. And look what we've achieved, which is incredible. And just quickly on that, in terms of getting on Apple TV and getting the release you have, just touch briefly on how you did that.
That's a good ask in terms of like other people out there. This is the kind of thing I always wanted to hear in podcasts.
That's why we do this.
That's why you do it. That's why it's not a coincidence. No, patience. I think. It was a slow grind editing it because I wasn't doing that as my full-time job as I'm editing this.
Yeah, and you're editing it.
Thousands and thousands of cuts, particularly in a film like this. And like I'd have people come to me, distribution companies come to me, and basically in the end we had 2 really strong ones. And they were both vying for the film, which is a great place to be.
Great place to be, yeah. And did you just send it to them?
I think the first one found me, and the second one I found through a previous distribution deal. So a previous distributor that had done one of my documentaries said, look, I can introduce you to this company. And so that's where that went from.
So you've got 2 companies bidding for it, basically, Lincoln. It's just quite a nice place to be. And at that point, were you obviously looking at the contract side by side and going, okay, well, I could take a bit from this or I could take a bit from this? How did you play it?
It wasn't quite a bidding war. I'd love to say it was. It wasn't quite.
It sounds good though, doesn't it?
Oh, it sounds
$1,002,000.
No, I mean, I had 2 offers on the table. Both were good and both had minimum guarantees. And in this world, for an indie film with, that doesn't have, like A-listers in it, that's an amazing place to be. So really it was just which of those to work with, and I'm really glad that the choice I made, and And so that was a fantastic thing. And I think, that's the other thing I should tell you about the crowdfunding. The crowdfunding had no payback, as in there was nothing where anyone had to get paid back anything monetarily. And to me, I think that's key. I don't know if you guys have done that or whether you'd recommend that, but I think I picked up a lot of that on different podcasts like this. I wanted to give rewards that meant things to people, but they weren't like, well, here's your $1,000 back plus some. It was more like, I again, trying to be creative, I sat down and thought, okay, well, how can I give them things? So like there would be things like someone's name would be in the script, but, like part of their name here and part of their name there. Because there's law about this society, this New York subterranean society of temporal engineers. I forget. I should have looked it up.
But basically, it's cool thing here is you got people who were putting in, instead of just getting a T-shirt or whatever, which is expensive. Don't do T-shirts in a crowdfunder. You managed to get their names in the script. Is a good. That's a good one. I'd like that. It's a good one. Or you probably said, here's a digital copy of the film at the end, which is really a good one as well. Because then it doesn't cost you too much just sending a digital copy, which are good things to do. And sorry, just to keep it on the distribution side of things, because you're there, there's two companies and you chose one. What did they promise you more than the other? Just because our listeners will be like, why did you choose one over the other?
They did.
One came with a Ferrari.
But one's a Ferrari.
That was pretty much the clincher. Yeah, when they mentioned the Ferrari. I mean they did, and there was also, I could sense that there was a more of a want in that company to want to accommodate me and want to work with me. Like, well, we really want this film, and we'll work around. Okay, how can we do this deal to make this way, as opposed to the other company was less like that. So that it wasn't just about the dollars, although it did add up to be more. They really wanted to make the deal work. And so that said more to me than the money, because what then happened is when we're then doing like redesigns on the poster and their marketing team's amazing, and then it's winning awards, and then they're reposting it and they're kind of like getting involved and stuff like that. I thought, my goodness, this is amazing. Like the team and the level and that. And that's what you really want to look for. You want to look for a distribution company that not only is going to give you something solid, but you want a team that really wants to work with you, and there's the difference. And it's very easy to smell the other, and you can very easy to fool yourself and go, but they're just replying like this because, well, they're busy. No, they're not. You know what I mean? That you can tell, and when you can tell, So
yeah. And they can even start out nice and then become that anyway. So like you don't want to start already at ground zero.
No, it's very true. And Tim, that must have felt great for you then, knowing that it's getting released, getting put on Apple TV, all the effort and time you've put into it. Not obviously as much as Lincoln, but in terms of for you, that must have been great. First lead, suddenly now you're getting a nice big release or bigger.
It was great. I mean, it was a long time coming because obviously with COVID and everything, I think there was a bit of a setback period. So, we shot this sort of, 5 years prior to the release, but it was kind of this really sweet moment where, it's actually an interesting place I was in, because years later, I'd obviously been building, as you do, you build your kind of resume. And then, it was kind of that thing that I've been waiting for that finally came to fruition. So it was great. It was lovely, and to be seen as widely as it was distributed was a big surprise. Not that I didn't think it would do well, because I did, but I didn't realise just how well it would be, received. So yeah, it was great.
Excellent. A final bit of advice then. Obviously you've given loads, but now what advice would you give to a filmmaker about to do exactly what you did? Lincoln, let's start with you.
Yeah, okay. I suppose believe in yourself, listen to your gut, be willing to step outside the collective in terms of what, I suppose I think of it as the collective in terms of this is the collective norm, this is the collective wisdom of how you do a thing. And it's not just all manner of life. It's there for a reason, right? But be willing to step outside of that and come up with your own ways to make things happen. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to make it happen for one reason or another, and you'll be better for it. I would say.
Yeah, and the same for you, Tim, for the acting side.
I think I think in terms of the acting, do the work. I think most actors would say the same. You know, you're picking up a script that a writer has put a great deal of hours and love into, so you need to give it exactly the same to do it justice. Understand the story that the writer is telling and find your connection to it. And once you have that, build on it. You know, immerse yourself in the text, in the context of what it is that you're looking to portray. And then, you know, give it everything. It's like I said at the beginning, put your heart into everything, you know. It goes back to that, you know, old make your bed kind of approach in the morning, you know, make your bed, have pride in everything you do. If you do the little things well, it snowballs. Do the big things well, do it with commitment, do it with love, put your heart into everything, and people will enjoy working with you. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not one of those people that say, oh, I don't care what other people think of me. I do. I want people to like me and enjoy their time with me, and not just maybe respect the way that I apply myself to work, but also to enjoy my company, so that we work together and we bounce off each other, and there's that mutual feeling of, you know, hope that one day your paths will cross again. I think that's important. And those journeys then snowball, and there might be other opportunities to meet down the line as well. It's all important, you know.
I think it's incredibly important. I think you two, especially on this film, just hearing all your stories, are great examples of having a nice attitude and, you know, letting passion sort of lead the way. So it's been a real pleasure sort of hearing from you both.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Congratulations, both of you. Lincoln Fenner, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting to you both, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Our pleasure. And Tim Cullingworth-Hudson, thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Rewind.
It's the team Rewind.
You can keep the nickname if you want. You got
Dom, you missed
can
it.
Be Tim Rewind.
Yeah, or between them, they're the team Rewind.
There it was. There'll be no official spotlight name change just yet.
Not just yet.
That's what you think.
You just wait. Time
Keep
Rewind
an eye on your IMDb.
Yeah, exactly. Might get changed. The film is out now on digital platforms and Apple TV, as Lincoln has said. Do go watch, do go support. And if you are lucky... and if you are lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to
travel back in time and do it again.
There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. You're amazing as always. Go out there, make your indie films, make your studio films, make whatever film you can if that's what you want to do. If you can do it, then great. Get on with it and make it happen for you. We will see you all next Tuesday. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Giles.
Thanks, Lincoln. Thanks, Tim.
Over and out.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping. Get styled.
Not today, sweatpants. Somebody's wearing jeans that fit.
Wow! No photos, please. I'm just a regular dad who happens to have a stylist.
I really look my best when someone else makes the decisions.
Hey, we can all see you two-way mirrors.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
I want to hug you. I'm going to hug you. I'm coming in for a hug.